a little harder for me because, I have seen some growth in some guys. I'm really happy for a Malik who has been through a lot, both personally and injury-wise, since he's been here, and to see him come on like he has is awesome. And of course, when you have a son that is part of your team, but senior night this week is going to be about trying to win a game, and that's, to be honest with you, that's the most important thing.
I'm wondering, you mentioned about after the game needing the seniors to play better. I guess, can senior night, can that be kind of a trigger point for guys to kind of see maybe the light at the end of the tunnel, but also kind of realize, hey, this is dwindling. We need to snap together.
Yeah, I've seen senior night work in a million different ways, to be very honest with you, both as a coach and as a player. Sometimes it's an emotional night where it works the other way. I've seen that not very often, but I've seen that a few times. But you kind of hope that everybody attacks today, tomorrow, and Wednesday with a little more vigor, a little more, this is my last chance to play in front of the Izzo, my last chance to play in front of the fans that have been so good. I mean, I'm not begging for anybody for support on Wednesday. I'm just telling you that when I look at other arenas and if people have a rough game or something, our fan base has been incredible. We had spring break early this year, and we had a better packed gym than we have even most of the time. So I hope our players look at it that way. They should. And then you always, there's something about your last game that those memories usually last a little longer. So I don't know how they'll take it. That's how I'd take it if I was them. It's not my last game, so I don't know, but it's the last game for those guys. I know I'll feel for them, how they'll feel. I'm 90% sure we'll be that way. Hopefully it'll be motivating, but I'm just saying sometimes, you get that build up and then you say, wow, this is it, and there's another part of you emotionally that goes the other way.
You played this game when there's been a lot on the line, like a Big Ten championship, and you've got a few where there's sort of still, got work to do situations. How does that dynamic change the vibe this week? And a lot of times it's been a weekend game too. That's it. Yeah. And now you got one more on there. Like it seems like you're at a different place in the season with so much more on the mind than a lot of other.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. Usually we've played mostly our last home game's been on the weekend. It seems like for the last 4 or 5 years, but that should have no bearing on it. But you're right. We've played for championships, and we've played a few times to help get us into the tournament. I mean, there's no question. I mean, we know where we're at. We know that wins are important at this time of year, and that's the way we're going to approach it. Deal with the white elephant, not bring more. The elephant shouldn't weigh more. We should just deal with the elephant, and that's what we're going to try to do is realize that, listen, if we play our best basketball, I think we got a lot of games still left to win. That has been the disappointing part for me as the leader, and that's the part I got to own up to. I thought we played pretty well in the last game in a lot of ways. We did the things we wanted to do. Sometimes people are going to get hot. Sometimes you're going to get cold. Sometimes officiating is going to make a difference. But the most part, I said it in the first huddle, and I said it in the last huddle in that game. I asked them to play at a different level as far as how hard we played and rebounding and physicalness. We did all those things, I think, to a level where I honestly look at we could have won a few more games if we would have played at that level. In saying that, some of those losses we've had, Minnesota, maybe Iowa, you still got to make layups. You got to make free throws. Here we go 15 for 17 or 17 for 19, whatever we were. We missed 2 free throws. So that plays a part in it sometimes. But the effort, the energy, the focus in a setting because of Gene Cady, because of what Purdue is doing, because they had a chance to win a championship at home. I thought our guys played extremely hard, extremely focused. I did think we missed some shots that we need to make if we're gonna, those short shots and things, if we're gonna move on.
Tom, speaking of those short shots, it seems like AJ's had a lot of them that are good shots for him and just can't get him to fall through stretches. How have you seen him kind of deal with that, and how does he get past that?
Well, I think he's just got to spend more time on it, working on it more. You know, I mean, there's some shots. You know, guys are funny. You know, it's everybody wants to work on the 3-point shot. I mean, it's unbelievable. You know, you walk in there and I mean, Marty's working on his 15-foot shot. You know, okay, that's cool, but you need to work on the shots you're going to get in a game. And AJ does get a lot of those because he can get by people and he's strong enough to get in there. And so I think you have to work on the shots that you get in a game more than the other shots. You know, I've been telling that to Carson Cooper, and you know he's got to work on those hook shots, missing too many of those easy shots. So that was my advice to AJ yesterday. It'll be my advice today. You know, work on game situation shots and the ones you're gonna get. You work on your 3 for hours and hours and hours. I mean, people do, and they get 2 threes a game. What are we doing, you know? It's work on the shots you're going to get in the game, and I think that's going to be my advice to him, and I think he'll do that.
Tom, do you get the sense or think that this team thinks that they can sort of flip a switch? Because when you look at the season, when there's been some big opportunities, they have kind of risen to a different, like a Baylor, Illinois, even Saturday, you know, they saw a big target and sort of rose up for it, played at a different level. Do you think that they can kind of flip a switch for big moments like this week?
You know, I'm not sure you ever flip a switch. I mean, if you're that way, that would be really disappointing to me, and I'd hope to the team, even though I sort of agree with you on when you see. But I keep saying, you know, we've let media, fans, TV people talk about the Big Ten like it's not very good. When we won 13 out of those 17 games, and I think 2 of them for sure, you know, were free throws, Illinois down there and Minnesota up there. We beat some good teams. We won some games on the road. It just, people didn't realize how good they were. Nobody thought anything of Nebraska, you know. I mean, there was a game we could have, should have won, and nobody thinks anything of those. So I don't know if it's flip a switch. I mean, it is disappointing to me that we don't seem to get up for every game. You know, when I got to coach effort or coach toughness, that is disappointing. And I feel like I've harped on that a little more than normal. But at the same time, we have proven we've gotten up for, I guess, what we all call big games, whether it be Arizona, whether it be Baylor, you know, those teams. I mean, I went so far back as I went and looked at our Tennessee game last night. I still think we could have played 3 teams. We still may have played 3 teams that are going to be all 1 seeds. You know, and every one of those games went down to the wire. So that's kind of where this team could be and probably should be. Why it's not, there's a variety of reasons, and I have to take accountability for most of them. But there does have to be something from within, you know, and I think they know what's on the line. I think they know. I did think they were ready to play in an environment. You know, my assistants came in and said, guys seem excited but a little nervous. And I said, great, because I think sometimes we're too cocky. We think you know, we're at Michigan State. We're just going to win games. Doesn't work that way. So I actually like nervousness. And I think, you know, they should be nervous but excited. That's the way I look at it.
You talk about not making the elephant any bigger than it already is, or what, how do you address the elephant when you talk to them?
Oh, it's been addressed for weeks. You know, I'm not one of those guys that You know, guy doesn't make free throws, you know. I don't go in there and say, come on, Johnny, you know, just make it, don't worry about mentally that you'll be afraid. Make the damn free throw, you know. Work on it, make it, address it. And I've always been a guy that confronted it. So it's been confronted. It's been talked about, but I've done that 2-3 times in the last couple of years. Sometimes I'm confronting a chance to win the Big Ten championship. Whatever it is, I apologize to the players that have played here, but you know, I'm not into that. Hey, don't put too much pressure on them. I'm into the, why did you come here? And if you don't want any pressure, you picked a bad school. You know, you picked a bad place. That's your fault, not mine. But if you come here, you know, this is the level you're expected to play at. This is the things you're expected to play for. And I love that. I'm not changing till the day I walk out of here. So if a guy's not making free throws, work on it harder. You know, still got to hold him accountable. If a guy's not making his threes, you know what? I'm not gonna. Don't worry, Billy. They'll come. You know, they'll get better. Somebody will fall down from the sky, and all of a sudden sprinkle some fairy dust on you, and everything's good. You know, it's not my style. My style is, hey guys, we hadn't played well enough. Just like I said before the Iowa game, guys. Contrary to what everybody's telling you, we've won 13 out of 17 games. And we've played pretty well in most of those games. And I think the league didn't get any credit, so, and we got off to a sluggish start, which we deserved all that criticism. No issue there either. And that's why I said, it's just like I say to myself, I have to take responsibility if my team doesn't play as good as they can play, and I don't hide behind that elephant either. And that is a big, big white elephant, because there's 600,000 small elephants that are kind of putting it to me, and I really wouldn't want it any other way. Whether you believe that or not, it's like I stated to my team the other day. You know, somebody said, well, if somebody is mad or gets mad in a huddle or gets mad on a, you know, for me, I love that. Then I know that it matters. It's when I don't know that it matters that frustrates me. I can deal with the consequences of somebody losing it a little bit or this or that. As long as I know that it's the most important thing in the world, I'm cool with it.
I believe this will be the furthest apart that you repeated an opponent. So just how have they changed? Obviously Barry is gone now.
Yeah, Barry's gone. You know, the rest of them I think will all be there. But you know, I think they've changed. We've changed. You know, I just think Boo Booey has been the difference. He's had an MVP year. I mean, he really has. You know, it's just Edie is so good. I don't know how that'll plan out, but if as far as Bowie, just kind of putting him on his shoulders, he's done an incredible job. Sometimes he has to score more, sometimes he has to pass more. But I think they've gotten Martinelli is playing better than he was definitely when we played him early. He's been a big difference too. He's just a kid that plays so hard and gets a lot done, and I think that's really helped him. The Langborn kid is better, but he was pretty good that night. So I think Bowie just kind of taking everybody on his shoulders and in different ways, different games, doing different things to help his team win. And that's why I think Chris deserves a lot of credit too. I mean, if not for Madden and Edie, I mean, Coach of the Year and Player of the Year could be at Northwestern.
Tom, just because this always comes up in the COVID era senior days, your fourth year guys, fifth years, is that something you decide after the season?
Yeah, that's right. We have one more COVID year, huh?
The last round.
I try to eliminate that. I think it was one of the dumber things we've ever done, but understand it. But Yeah, I think for the most part, you know, some of these guys, senior day is tear-jerking for the coach. I think for the players, it's a day of adulation. You know, everybody's. So I think some of these guys like to have 2 and 3 of them. You know, in fact, in some places now we might have 4 or 5 of them. I mean, why in the hell we should play till we're 30? But you know, yeah, I don't know. I mean, the way I look at it, my seniors are seniors this year from everything I know. But if 1 or 2 have opportunities, that'll be addressed after the year. God, guys are taking it light. Well, enjoy senior day. I know I will.
Well, two things. First off, I was 7 years at Minnesota, and it was a great experience. And PJ and the staff there was awesome, and it was a really tough decision to leave. And it was going to be something that was going to be a great situation in my mind to make the move. But two things about Michigan State. Number one, I think it can be special. They've been in the college football playoff, and it's been recent and won conference championships. So I think that's the first thing. And then the second thing is just everything I heard about, and Coach Smith and I hadn't worked together before, but everything I heard about him from other college coaches, from NFL scouts, from people in the profession was that, you know, you couldn't work for a better guy. And then getting to know him through the process, I felt that. That was kind of what my gut said. And then being here for 2.5 months, it's held true. Like, I don't know that you'll find a better guy in the profession. Like, he's awesome to work for. He's going to represent the program the right way. He's going to be a great leader for our players and our staff. So those two things were huge for me.
I'm wondering how much, because you obviously faced Michigan State last year, how much did you kind of get an idea of the personnel before you came in here, with particularly the younger guys that were on the roster?
Yeah, so obviously I was more familiar with the offense because that's who we had kind of competed against. You know, I did get a chance. Obviously, you go through a year and you get crossover film where, hey, you're getting ready for an offense and you see another team. So I did see the defense a little bit. I knew there was a good amount of guys coming back. I was able to watch a little bit of film before. And then obviously once you get here, you know, that was one of the top things that we did is just put on tape and watch guys and evaluate them. You're not worried about scheme. You're not worried about any of that. You're just putting film on and watching guys play. So that was kind of the process.
Were you able to share some of that intel that you had from scouting with Brian about what the offense he's got, what some of those?
No, honestly, no, because they're doing the same thing. They're putting it on. Like, everything that we have is more of like schematics and tendencies and tips, and those things kind of get thrown out the window when there's a new offense or new defense.
When you were at Teal and Maine, I've heard you say that you graduated a lot of guys and had brand new personnel. You mentioned a moment ago that there's not as much of a players leaving. You've got more players coming back. How is that unique in terms of the challenge? You got some experience, you got some returning players, but it's not a complete losing players. If I'm accurate about what you said.
Yeah, well, you know, the thing that I found over the years is when you have success at places like Teal and like Maine, which are not, those were not quote unquote the top jobs in the league. And I was fortunate to be a part of some good teams when we were there. You know, what you found is those teams recruited and then developed their players well. I think development is the undervalued thing in college football. Like, you can recruit, but you got to develop, right? And I think developmental programs are the ones that have lasting success. And so at those two places, that's what we had to do. And when we had experienced guys, that's usually when we kind of had our most success. College football, in my opinion, has changed in the last 4 or 5 years because there's much more turnover on a roster than there was, say, 6 years ago. You don't really know your roster isn't set until June, which is a different dynamic. So, like, that developmental process has kind of changed a little bit with transfers and things of that nature. So, you know, I think when you come into a program for the first time and you're installing the defense for the first time, everyone's on the same starting point. So that is a little bit of difference. So even though there are some guys coming back with experience, they're learning this defense for the first time. They're learning our culture for the first time as a football program. So there's a little bit of a learning curve for them. Now, listen, an experienced player is going to learn faster than a first-year guy. That's just natural because they've been through it before. But it is a little different situation in year one than it is in, say, year 4 or 5.
Going back a little bit about your past, you obviously went to work for PJ.
Yeah.
As a defensive guy, how is that in terms of working for an offensive-minded head coach, and how much ownership can you take in your defense when the head coach has got more eyeballs, I say, maybe on the other side of the ball?
Yeah, I think here's the thing. Like, obviously, I'm getting with Coach Smith for the first time, but just he painted a very vivid picture of what he was looking for and what he values. Obviously, you mentioned Coach Fleck, who I'd worked for before. I think the one thing that I feel similar between them is they value winning football games, and they value playing complementary football. And so I think that what you'll see in that standpoint is like when a head coach values that, decisions that they're making are with the end in mind of winning the game. Offense, defense, and special teams, understanding situations, understanding clocks, understanding is it a 1-score lead, 2-score lead, 3-score lead, and all the gameplay that goes into that. And just having conversations with Coach Smith, like I know that's really important to him. So for me, as a defensive play caller, that tells me like, hey, listen, you've got to do a good job managing situations so that we can put ourselves in position to win the most football games possible. I think it's all working for offensive guys. Like they can give you maybe a perspective that you don't have because they're offensive guys. And I thought that my prior boss, Coach Fleck, did a good job with that, and Coach Smith has already shown himself to be able to do that. And his will be at a little bit different level because he was a quarterback, and not only he was a quarterback, he's a pretty darn good one. So I think that will be something that I'll love to be able to talk to him and get inside the quarterback's head.
You go back 60 years in this program, the championship teams have been dominant defensive teams. But in the evolution of college football now, as offensive as it's become, how difficult is it to build a dominant defense?
Yeah, I think to me, like, you're right. Like if you go back through the years, in the 50s and 60s, defense was maybe a little bit more dominant, to use your words, than it is now. But I still believe you can play really, really good defense, and I think the top teams still play really, really good defense. I think what you got to do is what do you value in terms of playing really, really good defense in 2024? And for us and for me, it's eliminating explosive plays. The top offenses in the country are able to get chunk plays. And so when they create chunk plays, their scoring probability goes up. And so for us defensively, we want to eliminate those. And when we've played really good defense over the years on teams that I've been a part of and been in the top 25 or top 10, it's been the result of not giving up a lot of explosives and making people drive the length of the field and making them earn everything that they get. And if you look at that and we chart that, you'll find that the top defenses in the country give up the least amount of explosive plays. So that's something that we'll value.
Joe, you mentioned
the Big Ten, or maybe just being a Pittsburgh guy. I'm guessing maybe you probably have an appreciation for sort of the history of defense here. The 2010s, you probably saw some of the moves that were pretty coming. Your stance on the history of how level defense be played at Pittsburgh specifically, I guess.
That's a big piece of it. Yeah, I just think that piece of it has become a lot bigger. I know that there's people around the program here that we try to get our guys around and expose and work with, and I think that's a huge part of the game and a part of the game that I feel like you can, if you work at that part of the game, you can create a competitive advantage, I guess, against your competition. Everybody's doing the same, in terms of practices, weight staff, all that, but the edge, I think, the mental edge of the game to me is where we really challenge our guys to try to get a competitive advantage in that way, particularly at the quarterback position.
Thanks so much. Do you see Tanner Bauer as like a leader in the O-line room? Is he a center or a guard?
I think Tanner can do both. We're going to ask him to do some center. As far as a leader, I think he's got experience, and I think the leadership piece, he's coming in as a new guy. He's got to come in and earn that, and I think that anytime you got a guy that's got experience playing at this level and has had success and knows the system, we'd love for him to come in and be, take a leadership role, but that'll be something that he'll have to come in and earn. But Tanner, I think he's one of the things I love about him is he's done both. We feel comfortable with him snapping the ball, and he was our backup center, primarily at Oregon State, and then, but he's. Anytime you feel comfortable with that guy snapping the football is a good thing to have. So, we'll try him at center. I don't know, where he'll end up landing, but I know he's going to take a lot of reps at center in the spring.
With the wide zone concepts you guys run, you take a lot of look at Shanahan and some of the stuff that they do with the
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if it's even more than half the NFL is running that type of West Coast system that, and I say modern pro style. I think those guys have done a really good job of tweaking the system a little bit from what it was 15, 20 years ago or whatnot, and being just kind of the under center, stagnant. Now they've been drops and, different motions, some different ways of getting some of this stuff. But those are some of the, in my mind, the best offenses in the world. With those guys, some of the best minds in in the world as far as offensive football, and we study the Niners and the Lions. I think do a great job, and they're all kind of tied in that tree. And it is somebody that we study for sure in the off season.
What do you think is most effective about those offenses? Is it just overloading kind of personnel to one side, or using?
Yeah, to me, it's how multiple they are, and they're able to do the same things, the same concept, I guess, through multiple looks, to where you truly keeping things simple for us. And we've got, like you said, the wide zone concept. Our guys have got hundreds, if not thousands, of banked reps at running the wide zone, but you're running it a multitude of different ways where it looks like you're doing a lot more than you really are. And then the big thing for me is how those guys are able to create explosive passes. And they do that by marrying the run and the pass. They make them look the same on rundowns, and they stay on schedule, and are able to keep defenses off balance that way. And then, to me, like, scoring points is about creating explosive plays, and those guys are some of the best doing that.
Quarterback is such an important position in your sport these days. You have a potentially dynamic player coming in who's a multi-talented guy, not necessarily a drop-back passer. So offensively, are you forced to build your philosophy around your quarterback depending on what style he plays?
Absolutely, yeah. We always want to play off our personnel, and our offense from a year ago with DJ will look different than it will with Aiden, and we called the game a little bit differently when he was in the game a year ago, just based on his skill set. And that's something that I've challenged our staff to look at. Okay, here's a guy that we feels like a really talented guy. How can we build the offense around him while staying, with some of the key things that we believe in? So that's something that's a project of ours that we've been working on, and you probably see a little bit of it in the spring and then going through the fall, but always want to play off his skill set and what he's comfortable with.
I switched tables, so I apologize if you've covered this ground, but what attracted you to Michigan State and Jonathan Smith? I mean, what made this an appealing move for you?
Haven't been with Jonathan for 6 years, and I really believe in the way that he runs a program and his philosophy of the way that he treats not only players but coaches. I think the quality of life, as far as your family, the way he treats coaches, and that way, hey, we're going to work hard, but there's also going to have some time to be able to spend with your family, and that, and understanding the importance of that. And then, like I said, believing in the way that he does things. I think everything we do makes sense. I really believe, and that's easy to kind of get behind. And then coming to Michigan State, just to me, the history and tradition of the program, playing, getting to play and compete in the Big Ten Conference. I always think, having recruited, in quarterbacks against Michigan State, I feel like that's a national brand. It really excites me that I feel like we can get some big time talent, to work with, offensively, and that's exciting. And like I said, the tradition, they had this place going, won 10 or 11 games, right, 2 or 3 years ago, and then and then what they did through the, really the last 20 years or whatnot, just a lot of success, a ton of wins, making it physical. I think kind of lines up some of the things that we believe in, and I'm excited to be here.
Spring ball even more important when there's a new staff and new players?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, every minute that we can spend with those guys, and it is nice having, we got 4 of the full-time coaches came over on offense that know the offense, and there's some comfort there. But just getting around these players as much as we can, and meetings, walkthroughs, I mean, just taking advantage of every opportunity we can to get better will be big for us.
With the familiarity with Jonathan Smith, tell us what we might not know about him that makes him a little separate or special.
He's really he's a super competitive guy, one of the more competitive guys, and I think sometimes even in practice he's very quiet, he's very reserved, but you get around him from anything that he's doing, whether if you're playing golf, you're shooting hoops, you're doing anything like that. The guy is one of the more competitive guys that I've been around, and it doesn't always come off like that because he's this very reserved, nice guy. The guy's one of the more competitive people I've been around.
Can you talk about when you put together that quarterback recruit class? It's a weird situation where I'm sure you've never had a deal where you come into a program and there's 0 quarterbacks, and then you have to go, you have to get transfer, obviously, 2 portal guys and then 2 high school guys. It's a unique situation. Can you kind of talk about
Yeah, it was. I've never been in part of anything like that. I mean, I stepped off the plane. I think it was the Monday after the last game of the season, November, and I got off the plane. And all those guys had gone in the portal. It was wild. And my wife called me and was like, "Hey, you got a great first day." You know what I mean? Got no quarterbacks on the roster, and it was really challenging. Just the time frame of like, hey, we had 2.5 weeks, I think, to before that first signing day, and. To get Aiden over was, when he went in was huge, and then, but it also made it challenging at the same time. Hey, you're bringing someone from your, program that you were at, that you recruited, and then, who wants to come, what other transfer wants to come be a part of that program when you got a young guy that you recruited that you're bringing in. So it was really challenging talking to other transfers that way, and fortunate enough we were able to find Tommy, a guy that, all-time leading passer in North Dakota, and has played a lot of ball and gives us some experience in the room. And then just 2.5 weeks to throw together, find some freshmen. We like the guys that we brought in. Obviously, there was some familiarity recruiting Rylan from when we were at Oregon State, but Alessio, a guy that kind of went through and watched a lot of guys in the